Hi everyone! Today it is all about vintage Santas and what you can make with them. And as always, I hope you enjoy the show. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love it if you hit that button. Oh my gosh, this one is so much fun. You're going to go to the Dollar Tree and grab a toddler book with the cardboard pages, a paperback book, and your favorite prints, whatever you'd like. You can do this with a big hardcover book, but I'm going to show you a smaller version. And for me, since I make a lot of stuff, this is easier to store. And I just have more space to decorate with it. Easy to store, and it came up absolutely gorgeous. So you start off by tearing the paperback book apart. You're just going to take it off in little sections, and I found it's better to start on one end, flip the book around, and then do the other end to get a nice clean tear. These little Dollar Tree books come with 3 pages, and I only needed 2, so I'm going to cut one out to use it as a template for what we're going to do next. So I'm using it for a template, and I'm just cutting the pages. I did find, unfortunately, even when I chose a really small bundle, the pages still slip. So I had a lot of evening to do and, cutting to make everything even. I chose to use the edge of the pages as the part I did not cut because I wanted those nice and smooth. So I'm cutting everywhere else, and as you can see, I ended up putting those little pink clips on to hold everything nice and tight so I can get a very clean edge. We will end up making a new the binding of the book, we will end up making a new makeshift one for this little project. I am using some of the Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and I'm just going to paint this book so that the imagery doesn't bleed through. I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to glue everything down, so I thought I'll start with just painting this, and I gave it 2 coats. So I'm using apple barrel paint in the color burnt umber, and I'm just going to give the front cover of this book and the back cover 1 coat of this paint. You can use any darker paint you want, but I'm going to be using school glue today to get the crackle effect. I've never done this. I've heard of it. I've seen it, and I decided to use the cheapest school glue I could find just to push my limits a little bit to see if it worked. So I got this glue at Dollar General for $1, and I did notice, if anyone's going to ask me what the difference is between Crackle Medium that you buy on Amazon for I think it's about $12 or $13 and school glue, I did notice the school glue was kind of bubbling up and running, so I had to dry it, as you saw, to stop that. Just a little bit, not a lot, but I had to dry it enough to make it stop kind of shrinking on the surface. And then I just took apple barrel acrylic paint this time instead of chalk paint. I usually use chalk paint, and it was in the color Antique Parchment, which is very similar to the plaster color that I use from Waverly chalk paint, and I started blow drying. So the paint was, or rather the glue was not soaking wet when I did it. I dried it just to the point where it stopped shrinking on the surface. So if you felt it with your finger, it would have been a little sticky. And then I put my acrylic paint down, and it came up absolutely gorgeous. You definitely do not need to buy Crackle Medium, although the cracks do seem a little bit different. They're like longer. If you want more like a webbed one, I think the Crackle Medium does that better, but still it was absolutely beautiful. So now we're doing the makeshift binder, like we're binding the edge of the book here. I just put some masking tape on one side, squeezed the edge together. We're applying the hot glue in a zigzag pattern so we get all of our pages, and then we're squishing it down and sealing it up with the masking tape, and it worked perfectly. I also just took all the pages that I cut and put them, I chose to break them in half just visually by eye. I didn't count the pages or anything. I just did the best I could, took a guess what looked like an even break. And then I disconnected the 2, you can see the 2 like cardboard pages there. We're going to work with those later. Right now, I'm just going to glue those pages down on the inside of the book with some hot glue. Next, using a glue stick, it's just a Dollar Tree glue stick, I am gluing down these images. They are so beautiful. I found them under scrapbook Christmas paper on Temu. They were very cheap. I wish I could remember, but I won't buy it unless it's cheaper than the Dollar Tree. And I chose some pretty prints. I cut them in half. They're actually supposed to be book pages, so it made it pretty simple and they fit perfectly. But you can also print these up online. I will leave a link down below where you can find lots of vintage prints on clip art. So if you don't have the Temu one, you can use that. And now I'm taking my antique wax and I'm just going to go about antiquing this whole book. So we antiqued the edge of those hard pages. Now we're doing the paper little pages, and next we'll do the book cover. So I wanted to show you how nice and smooth the acrylic paint came out instead of the chalk paint. I actually love this method more. As far as the crackle effect, I always use chalk paint and it comes up really thick and it has streaks. It's still beautiful, but I think if you want a smooth, thinner coat on the top with crackles, go for the acrylic paint. So now I'm using a metallic paint. It's like a copper color. I didn't have gold. I really want to use gold, so I'm going to go ahead and buy gold next time I see it and go over the brass just to add some more metallic look, but for now it came out very pretty. Next, we're going to use Mod Podge, and we are definitely going to be sealing this little book up quite a bit because I am going to keep this guy forever. So I do 2 coats of Mod Podge on the pages right here, and it is, because it's very lightweight, it is hard to keep it from wiggling. So I ended up using that little scoring tool just to hold it. You could use tweezers or anything, a pencil, just something. I'm letting you know it kind of slides around. It's hard. And here comes our second coat. Next, I'm taking this really pretty dainty glitter that I found on Amazon, and I'm just going to apply it around the edges of this book and down the seam a little bit. So I Mod Podged the book cover. The whole book is Mod Podged. I absolutely love the way this came out. Keeping this forever. Would love to know what you guys think. For this next project, I'm using this metal bucket that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be using folk art chalk paint. This chalk paint is more akin to like a primer in my homemade chalk paint, and since I didn't have any primer, this is one that will definitely stick to shiny surfaces. It's meant more for furniture, and I just gave it 1 coat. Now I'm using a vintage picture of Santa here that I got from Temu, but you can find these all day online, and I will leave a link down below in my description box. I am taking my glue stick from the Dollar Tree and generously applying it on the back of this image and then applying it to the metal pan. Now I'm about to show you a really fast, simple way to get a birchwood look. So this is what you're doing here. I took the color Territorial Beige in Apple Barrel paint and I just put it on. Well, you saw it's not really dry brushing. It's kind of a light, soft paint brushing, and I'm taking a baby wipe now and I'm deliberately wiping off the center of any bigger marks, and see how it's leaving like those little borders, I guess, where the center's clear. Now you see me switching my baby wipe around too. You don't want this, you have to be careful not to make this look like a stain. You're not trying to blur this, although a little bit's okay because that also makes it look like birchwood. So it's definitely a balance. You kind of have to watch what you're doing, but you're just switching your wipe around and rubbing off the center of those marks. And voila, you have a very fast faux birchwood looking tight pan. It's not identical, but it definitely gives the feeling. So next I'm taking the color Nutmeg and this little sponge here, and I'm just tapping it on to kind of antique and distress this pan a little bit more. And lastly, I'm going to take the color Black and do the same exact thing. We're just distressing the edges there to make it look dark. And we're all done. Came up absolutely beautiful. Next, I'm taking this foam that I keep from packages. I always recommend that you save your foam if you get them in packages. And I heard this called Celsior grass or something like that on another channel. They pulled it out. It's like a wispier form of moss here. I love it. I ordered it on Amazon. I will leave the link down below in my description box. And we're taking some Dollar Tree skewers now, and we're staining them with the color burnt umber. And I'm just using the side of that little sponge brush to do it. It's super easy. And look what else the foam does. That's the foam, by the way, that's soft like a pool noodle. It's not the kind that crumbles. And you can use it to dry those by staking them inside. Now I'm using cinnamon, super old trick for getting faux rust. I'm doing it more for like air fresheners. I want it to be scented in my house for Christmas, so I'm being very generous. I use my paint to apply the first layer. I leave the paint wet and shake the cinnamon on, but the second layer in the back, I actually do glue because these little wooden cutouts from the Dollar Tree have like sparkles on the back of them or designs that require a thicker layer of cinnamon to cover. I'm using pine now I got from Amazon. This is 50 for $15.99, and the little delicate one there in my left hand, that is 25 pieces for $9.99. So these are cheaper than the Dollar Tree per pick. Even if you add 3 of them together, they still come in the same. So much better quality pine. And of course, I have to buy ahead of time because I start crafting ahead of time before Dollar Tree brings out their pine. I also got the berries on Amazon. Same thing, very comparable to the Dollar Tree, same price or less. These are some little faux candy. They're like wooden beads that were painted to look like Christmas candy from Temu. Very cheap. I think there was a package of 25 for about $2. And I'm showing you here if you want it to look like rust more, to take your finger and rub some off, because it definitely gives more of a natural look to it, since rust doesn't usually go completely solid and thick. You know, it has like areas that are heavier and lighter. Just adds a little bit of a nice texture. And I'm just gluing all of these on top of those little stained stakes that I made. Now I decide I want a curly cube in there of wire. I don't know why. I just thought that would be fun. So I'm showing you, I'm taking the Dollar Tree black wire, wrapping it around a paint brush, the end of a paintbrush, and I'm wrapping it around the skewer, and then that's it, just for decor. I think it looks so cute and happy that way. And I'm going to add a snowflake as well and some pine lower. Now, to get this pine to look more authentic, you'll see me bending it later in the video if you want your pine to look like it's actually there. Oh, there I am. I'm starting to bend. You can't leave them completely straight and erect like that because it will look artificial and silly. You definitely kind of have to bend them and make them look more like a natural plant when you're all done with this display. So I just took one of the Dollar Tree electric candles, painted it, covered it with cinnamon again, and put it inside the front there. And now I'm taking some cardstock. Last minute, I decided to do a gift tag for this, like an antique gift tag. So I'm just rubbing it and grinding it into the cinnamon to get it a little bit tinted. And then I'm going to take the nutmeg color with the sponge and further distress it so it looks nice and old and vintage. And then we'll be writing the word believe on it as well. I don't show it, but you will see in the final reveal, there is a little pine cone to the right of that candle that I end up adding in because, again, it just felt like it was missing something. This is so much fun. You just basically put all these little fun little ornamental things inside this bucket. And this definitely comes in as almost a free DIY. If you use a coffee can, if you use dried plants that you find outside and save over the year, like grass, pine cones, even berries. You know, you have to be careful. Some berries are poisonous though if you have pets or children, but totally fun, so beautiful, very vintage. And here I go with some baker's twine. Like I said, I just put that underneath the little candies. They just look like they were a bead sitting on top of a stick, so they looked a little bit weird. So they definitely needed the bow, but this is an absolutely stunning craft. And I do end up sealing it with a clear varnish when it's all done. For this one, I have some music paper, some antiqued paper, a little vintage Santa, and one of those Dollar Tree MDF mason jars, and that print, which I will leave the link down below in my description box so you can access them too. Actually, I'll just leave the link to that page if I can find it. I have to go look for it now. That has a bunch of different vintage Santas that you can choose from, so that'll be fun. And then I just took and glued that paper on top of my mason jar, trimmed it off. This craft is pretty straightforward, and the good thing is if you're not near a Dollar Tree or your Dollar Tree isn't carrying those little mason jars, this is definitely a cardboard craft. You can absolutely cut out the shape of a mason jar and do this because the whole thing is pretty much covered with paper. So now I took my music sheet and I just burned the edges to give it that vintage vibe. I cut my Santa out, traced where I wanted my paper, and I glued everything down with a glue stick. I know you see the Mod Podge right there, but I actually changed my mind and just used the glue stick for everything, and it's still holding. Everything's still together. You can always seal it up if you want with Mod Podge, but I find the glue stick doesn't wrinkle anything and it holds everything down fine. Now I just grabbed this burlap ribbon and wrapped the top of the mason jar, but I thought afterwards you could get really creative with this. I have seen so many pretty tops on the top of these mason jars. You could do a Santa hat. You could do like the fabric tied on the top where it looks like it's tied on, you know what I mean? And there's a little left over at the edge. Metal. There's so many neat little, if you go into the baking section at Dollar Tree or any store, you can find metal pans that are, well, they're foil, but you could use that and just have fun with that one. You can get so creative. And I found these pre-made little buffalo check bows, and I just start using some raffia. The raffia is like a burgundy color. With the little buffalo check bow, I did end up gluing lace ribbon on top of it. You can see there, I laid it out. I haven't done it yet, but there I go. I lay it out on top of this bow because in person, when I put this bow down, it looked really like plain and solid. I didn't like it. So I just added a little bit of lace there, some pine cones and some pine. And I think this came up so cute. It's such a simple DIY and it's so festive. We're starting off with the Dollar Tree little pie tin there. I'm using some paper I got from Temu. It was a great deal. These were under $2, I think. Big package, came with a lot of choices, definitely going to last me for a while. And this is another one of their vintage Santas, and I'm just cutting him out, and I just cut the little circle out. It was Joy to the World, it's lyrics. I thought that was cute. I'm going to use this glue stick, and I'm going to glue it down. That's it. Now the glue stick worked really good, just putting it straight down onto the pie tin. You didn't need to do your paper. Santa, I had to do the paper, so in that case you have to go carefully so you don't wrinkle them. I'm sure you guys know if you rub too hard, you can wrinkle them. And you saw me take a tissue there and wipe off the excess dry glue from the glue stick that was oozing past the seams there. And this is sped up 5 times, but I'm going and putting a thin ribbon of hot glue around the edge here because I wanted to use this red and white twine. I thought that would make a super cute border for this picture. And I'm just taking my time. If you do this and you take your time, you will not see any hot glue over the edge of the twine. You just have to go slow. So I'm showing you up close here that I did decide, even though I had cut those shorter, they were still in the way. So I did decide to put a little bit of hot glue on each one of those and tuck them up on the top there so that they're tacked up to the pie pan and not hanging down anymore. I'm actually adding a burlap ribbon here, and then I'm using the Dollar Tree ribbon on the top there. I love that one. I saved it for Christmas. I think they bring it out for like the 4th of July around, well, it was there at summertime. I'm showing you here that you can choose a snowflake if you want, but I had made a cutting board with this little candy, also from Temu, super cheap, and I decided to stay in a theme here. Thought that would be fun. And I'm just adding some florals, mostly just pine. I want to say I don't use the big pieces, like right there, those pieces on the side. You'll see me just cut one off. That's all you need to make a big statement. You don't need to use big pieces off of your florals. You can certainly stretch those and make them go far. But that's pretty much it. And I love the way this guy came out. For this next project, I'm using 2 of these Dollar Tree little houses. They're like shadow boxes on one side with a chalkboard, and I'm just using a hairdryer to remove the stickers. I also got 2 of these wooden plaques from the Dollar Tree, and I'm giving them a sand because they're definitely rough on the sides, and we're going to be using those as a base, and I'm going to give them a quick coat of white paint. Next, I'm going to be using this really pretty Christmas craft paper. That's going to last me a few years. So I was really pleased with that. And this is some craft paper, again, from Temu. It's 6x6, but I decided to do combinations just for a little bit more contrast and a little bit more fun for the eye to look at, but they're complementary to each other. And then I chose for my imagery a vintage Santa and a vintage Christmas tree. And we're just cutting everything out and getting it nice and even. And we're going to go to the good old glue stick here to glue these down and let it dry. So it was a little wet with a glue stick, just a tiny bit. You do have to let it dry a little bit before you sand it. Maybe, I don't know, like 3 or 4 minutes. It dries pretty quick. But then I'm just taking a nail file and sanding the edge. Now I did want to Mod Podge this on. I'm making one for my daughter and one for me. But I got smart with the Santa there, and I used just a little bit of Mod Podge, moved really quick, and blew dry it right away. So also here you can see I always like to take my little plaques and twirl them around and around to make sure I'm getting them right in the middle. And then I'm just using this decorative moss here. It's kind of a mix of green and brown. It's like Spanish moss and moss mixed together, but it's really nice. And then I'm using more of this lycopodium. I believe they bring this out during the coastal time, thinking this is good for coastal decor, but I actually think it's better for Christmas. But so hopefully they'll bring it out for Christmas. If not, look for it again around the summertime because that's when I found it. Same time they brought out the coastal decor. I'm just sticking little leftover pieces of that here and there because it does look like pine and it just adds kind of a wild Christmassy look. I love the look of that stuff. It's really pretty. I doubt I'll find it again, so I'm doubting you guys will too, but I'm definitely looking for it again next year. These are some really awesome bells I found on Temu that are already aged. They're ready to go, and it was like a lightning deal. I think I got like 15 of them for $3. It was just such a good deal for the amount you get and that they were already done. And of course, they're not giving off cinnamon. You can use a cinnamon trick though. You can always paint your jingle bells kind of lightly brown, just sponge it on there and then sprinkle on cinnamon while it's still wet and it will give you the same effect. And here's another find from Temu that I thought was so cute. Those were like 78 cents. They're little wooden beads, but they're painted like Christmas candy. Look at that. Isn't that cute? And I took that gingham print ribbon there. That was from the Dollar Tree. I tied it with some of the twine from Dollar Tree and then I tied it onto the bells. I couldn't get the ribbon through the bells, so I just used twine and that turned out really cute. Now I'm just gluing on some berries. I got these off of Amazon. The link is down below in my description box. So the free printables will be down below in my description box. There will be links down there you can click if you want to recreate this craft or something very similar. And you just click the word more underneath the video and a drop down menu will appear and that's where you'll find all the links. But I think this came up so pretty. For this one, I'm just cutting down a Christmas print. You can use any print. You can skip the print if you want. And now I'm using some of the folk art antique wax as a stain, and I'm just using a brush and painting it on. I didn't water it. Actually, this might have a little tiny bit of water in it because I think it's running low and I may have added a little bit of water, which I like to do because it makes it slip and slide better. And I'm just staining the Dollar Tree crate and the Dollar Tree birdhouse, and I'm going to give it a blow dry so we can move forward here. And now I have the $1.25 wood dowels. You can find those also in the Crafter's Square section at Dollar Tree. And that's good news, actually. I heard the crafting stuff is not going up, so we're still going to be at $1.25 for that. And I use my trusty little saw. I love that thing. If you're interested in it, again, the link is down below in my description box. And I also tag it in my video so you guys can find it because it's made crafting so fun and so much easier. I wish I had gotten it years ago. And I'm just, okay, so with the picture here, you saw me tear the edges. I just like to do that so it looks a little distressed and I just like that look. You can skip that if you don't like it. And I used a glue stick to glue it on, and now I'm cutting it, and I'm actually allowing the image to fall down into the crack there. I didn't remove it because I want the complete image, and of course his little face is part of the image, so I didn't want to take his face out. And I'm using the Dollar Tree spatula there. It's just a silicone spatula they sell in the makeup section that I use for usually hot glue. Yeah, that became viral. Boy, I just grabbed that thinking that would be good for hot glue back in 2020. And I had no idea how viral silicone spatulas would become, because at that time so then I added the little wooden beads. We're going to stain those later. And now I just want to frost these things up so it looks like there's snow. I'm adding some white paint, just using the little sponge brush. Again, I think the sponge brush, yeah, it is. The set is also from Dollar Tree, those little sponge brushes. And I'm just going around the top of the crate, the sides. I'm trying to think wherever it would kind of naturally frost if this was outside, you know, on the ledges. And then I go around my picture because I want it to look kind of like a window, I guess, a frosted window, just that illusion. You can do this however you want, of course. This is definitely where you're, you know, just have fun. That's the fun thing. Crafts, you know, you're creative. Just be creative and have a good time. It makes it so many people stress about it. They'll write to me and go, oh, you know, that didn't, and it's like, it's okay. It looks beautiful. Just have fun. So anyway, I am now going to add some of the Mod Podge on the top of the birdhouse, and I started off with baking soda for the snow, and it just didn't have enough glitter and sparkle and just that kind of magical Christmas feel to it. So I thought, meh, I put some more Mod Podge on top of the baking soda, and then I added my glitter. That did the trick, by the way. Look at that. It just ended up sparkling so pretty. And of course I made sure I had a little bit on the, right there, a little bit on the edge where the bird would, that little perch right there, where a bird would sit, I guess. And of course we have to frost up the little dowel as well. And I took some Dollar Tree foam that I had left over, and I just glued it down in the crate, and I pushed the dowel down inside that. And I'm putting Spanish moss on top of everything to cover it up. And then we're just going to go about adding like embellishment and stuff on top of the Spanish moss to make this, you know, you can, again, this gets so fun because you could put whatever you want inside the crate to make it Christmassy. You could make it a winter DIY. You could even do this. This would actually make a really pretty Easter or spring DIY too. This is definitely interchangeable. You know, you could leave the frost off and just leave it stained, and you could make it for Christmas, and then you could take the Christmas stuff out and put the Easter eggs in and Easter stuff. Fall, you could do the same thing with fall. I put snow on mine, so I think I'm kind of committed here to Christmas or winter, but that's what I wanted. Anyway, so I'm just adding some berries. So at first I put the bird in there, and I put some of the berries underneath him to hold him up, and then he just wasn't kind of staying down very well, so I ended up taking a Dollar Tree skewer right here, skewing the little birdie, and that's also a Dollar Tree little red, I think it's a red cardinal, and I ended up skewering him and then putting him down in the foam. That way that did the trick. And I'm just adding like antique bells in there, berries, pine cones, just Christmas stuff. And I made a little raffia bow, and I did end up putting a tall piece of pine behind the birdhouse. See on the left hand side there, I just thought that created a beautiful silhouette. And now of course I have to frost everything that I put inside the crate so it matches. But we're all done. I love this so much. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed today's video and had fun, here are some more videos I think you'll enjoy watching next.
Merry Christmas!